Now in this lecture, we are going to study about different user interfaces that are used in database management system. So the first question arises is why do we need user interfaces at all? When we have a structured query language, then to access the database, then why do we need a user interface? So not everyone knows SQL or technical commands. For example, your librarian is not a programmer. He does not need to know SQL language just to do his work. So in that case, how can he manage the database, right? So here user interfaces comes into play, right? Interfaces make database easy to use for all, even non-technical users, right? And the user interfaces helps avoid mistake by providing guided or options, right? They can be better interacted with rather than writing a program where the program is prone to mistakes, but here we know what we are doing, right? User interface provides the things in a very easy way. There's a very less chance of you mistaking something. So basically user interfaces, they improve efficiency and user satisfaction. Now what is a user interface in DBMS? User interface basically means an interface, right, which contains some buttons, some visual elements which we can use to basically interact with the database by clicking them or by selecting them, right? So basically user interface is a medium for users to interact with the database without writing code directly. And you don't have to write the code, but the code gets executed. This is the catch. The code gets executed in the backend. It is just that we have created an abstraction in between. When you click something, let's say on a user interface, when you click a button, some action definitely is going to perform in the backend, right? Your click, it will get converted to some command, and that will then run in the database, right? So basically, typically, most of the user interfaces they provide button, forms, menus, and visual diagram. And using these elements, we can basically choose what we want to do. Now, user interfaces they translate user action into database command, as I just mentioned before, right? If you click something, it will do something in the backend. It will run some command in the database, right? So by doing all of this, it makes database tasks simpler and faster. Now there are different type of user interfaces available. Uh, One of them is menu-based interface. Let's see what menu-based interface is. Now, in menu-based interface, we get some options as list or menus, right? As drop-down or buttons, right? And using that, we select our selection, and it basically gets executed. So, in menu-based interface, the interface basically guides the user step by step to perform tasks, and also the advantage that you do not need to remember the query syntax, right? You can proceed with what you already know. If you know how to read a language, you can very easily perform tasks, right? It is very common in online forms like ticket booking system. In ticket booking system, you do not run a query like select a seat which is empty. You do not run a query like that. You just see in the menu and select the seat which is not currently booked. Select from seats which are not currently booked. Alright, here's an example as well. Choosing source destination and date in an online trail reservation system. Here comes graphical user interface (GUI). So basically, this user interface is it constitutes of many graphical elements which are very helpful and which are used to basically perform a action. So graphical elements like diagrams, icons, or visual elements. All right, and it allows clicking or dragging to interact with the data. Now, graphical user interface, they are often used in database design tools and admin dashboards. And they are used because they are easier to understand, right? Using this, you can very easily understand the table structure and relationship. An example would be dragging a table to view its data or relationship in tools like MySQL Workbench. Yes. You must have worked with MySQL Workbench. It is basically a graphical user interface that is used to basically uh, manipulate the database, right? If you have not worked it, you are going to work it in this course. Now, coming to mobile app interfaces, these are basically specifically designed for smartphones and tablets, right? And they use a very simplified touch-based navigation as you use in your smartphones nowadays. And mobile interfaces basically allow database operations from anywhere. Mobile is a mobile, you know, it is a very portable device, and hence you can allow the database operations from anywhere. And mobile interface is basically helpful for on-the-go tasks like checking balances or updating records. So coming to speech input-output interfaces. So as the name suggests, here speech is used to input, right, and also for the output. So basically, the user gives his input, the whatever the thing that he want to query in a speech format, right? And this speech basically is converted into text, and then uh, the appropriate command is run in the background, right? Now, from the database, when the data comes, the data is also converted into speech format, right? And the data is then the user then hears the data that he wants. So this is very useful for visually impaired individuals. Example is voice assistant. You can easily say show my account balance, and the assistant will you know tell you your account balance. So why are these interfaces useful, right? Why there are different types of interfaces, and why are these interfaces useful? So basically, not always technical guys work on the database. When a non-technical guy is working, he does not need to know the SQL language to access the database, right? So in that case, we use user interface. So it saves time by providing quick access to common tasks. It reduces error by guiding user input, right? Step by step you go and you perform a command, perform an action, and user interfaces basically improve overall user experience and satisfaction. The whole task become very simple, and you do not have to remember the syntax of the query language.